Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you joining me here for another week. Before I get into today's episode, please make sure that you've jumped on and subscribed on all the podcast platforms that you are listening to this on: Apple, Spotify, Google. The podcast is on all of them. You can also find video versions of the podcast on YouTube and on the Facebook page. So just search the Unstoppable Dad Project on both those platforms and you'll be able to find it. At the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram if you'd like to give us a follow there as well. And please do me a huge favor. Make sure you're sharing this around with anybody who you think might get some value from it. By you doing that, it helps me continue to grow this little old podcast that we've been doing now for over the last 2 years. So this week's going to be hopefully a bit of a quick one, unless I get myself off on a tangent or get worked up about something, as I have a tendency to do. But it's all based around a little bit of a, let's call it a mantra that I guess I've started to live by over the last couple of years. And it's all about being grateful for what you have, but also understanding that there's always work to be done. And I've actually got it written on my whiteboard right in front of me in my little home gym office setup that you'll be able to see on the video version of the podcast. But it is: be grateful, but don't settle. And the reason why, for me, I need to continually be reminded of that is I have a tendency, like a lot of men that I speak to, and a lot of men, I guess, in this world, to be pretty hard on myself. And I think there's a time and a place to be hard on yourself. I think some people, especially in today's day and age, maybe aren't hard enough on themselves and let themselves off the hook a little bit too easily. And there's times in life where I've definitely done that. And there's times in life where I probably needed to be a little bit harder on myself. And I find that I can be hard on myself in different areas of my life, but some areas of my life I actually go too easy on myself. And sometimes I need to ramp it up in others and bring it back. And I guess that's just the dichotomy of just being a semi-self-aware human being semi-self-aware of the things you enjoy to do, being semi-self-aware of the things that you know you need to work on, but also trying to be objective at times around, hey, maybe this is a time that I'm in where I need to pull back on the reins a little bit. I need to just take stock on what I have. I need to maybe not be as hard on myself because I need to gather my thoughts. But while I'm doing that, I still need to at least do some work to move the needle forward in order to get better at the things that I need to get better at. And that, in turn, is really the essence around be grateful but don't settle. Even though I've got an awful lot in my life to be grateful for. I've got a very loving and supportive wife. I've got 2 amazing children, and the circumstances that we're in are some that some people would envy, but there is elements of that where I want to continue to work and I want to continue to get better. Not only do I personally want to continue to get better, but I want to elevate the circumstances that we're in for our family. And yes, that is material things. I want my kids to be able to grow up in a nice house and a nice neighborhood, which they are at the moment, but I would like it to be better. Now, I don't need it to be a big 16-bedroom mansion with, 10 bathrooms and 16 cars and all this other stuff, but I would like to move into a bigger place at some point. So in order to do that, I need to understand that there needs to be work put in order to get to that point. Because if I'm not going to put in the work, then nobody is going to come and save us. And I think there can be a bit of a mindset when it comes to showing gratitude for where you're at, where it's like, I'm grateful for where I'm at, and there's a lot of things. How do I phrase this? I'm struggling to kind of articulate the way I'm feeling, the point I'm trying to get across. There can be an element where, and I've more noticed this within myself, but I've also noticed it in some of the wider community, where while gratitude is such a powerful thing, especially if you are in a dark spot, when it came to a little bit of a story, when it came to me first starting to journal, and journaling's been hit and miss for me over the last 7 or 8 years. There's been times where I've been really consistent with it. There's been times where I haven't been. The one thing I do know is if I'm in a really dark spot mentally, kind of getting my thoughts onto paper does help. But one of the tools that I used to actually start journaling was a gratitude journal, where I would write down every day 3 things that I was grateful for. And that was it, because it was a very easy starting point for me to kickstart the habit without giving me too many things to worry about. And without going down that rabbit hole too much, when people are trying to start a new habit, if you make it too complicated, it is going to be very hard to start it. So from the point of view of journaling, the one thing that I did was I did a gratitude journal. And when I kind of researched it and I looked at it and I looked at the kind of habits and behaviors that it was forming for me, there's an element of when we go too far down the path of being grateful, where we can become complacent and almost just settle for where we're at. And that was where it's like, right, I'm not saying don't be grateful for what you have. And I think for some people, we actually need to look at our life as a whole and understand that, hey, we're in a pretty good spot. But because we're in a pretty good spot, it doesn't mean we have to settle where we're at. We can be happy with where we're at, but we can still continue to work to get better. We can still continue to work to improve our situation. And there is almost this demonization of hard work and knuckling down and doing what's needed to be done in order to move yourself forward in the same space as being grateful. Now, I actually think you can hold those two things in the same space. And I don't think it's a point that gets articulated or gets spoke about too much, where it's like the whole grateful mindset. And I've been guilty of this when I've been talking to people or I've been coaching people. But when we go down the path of being grateful for something, it's almost like, hey, be grateful and stop and don't get any better at anything that you're doing. And I don't think that's the right point to put across, because you can be grateful for the situation and the circumstances that you have, but there can still be something inside you where, hey, even though I'm grateful for this, I still want to change X, Y, Z. I still want to get stronger. I still want to get fitter. I still want to improve my financial situation. There's still going to be something that you may want to improve, and that's okay to want to improve. And that right there is something that I think doesn't get said enough. It is okay to want more. It is okay to work to get more. And you can do that in the same breath and in the same vein as being grateful for where you're at right now and the circumstances and the opportunities that you've been afforded and the people in your life. You don't have to be ungrateful for all of that to want to improve. You can be grateful and still not want to be settled where you're at. Now, for some people, you may not want to get better. And that's entirely up to you. That is your decision and your choice. But I think there's an element where we have to stop making people feel bad for wanting more, because there seems to be a little bit of a movement where we're heading in that direction, and we're heading in the direction where it's like, hey, just be grateful for what you've got. And that's the end of the sentence. That's the end of the conversation. I don't think it needs to be the end of the conversation. I think 100% be grateful for where you're at, especially if you are in a very negative mindset around your life and around where you're at the moment. I think taking stock in where you're at and looking for things to be grateful for is a very positive influence and a very positive thing that a lot of people probably need to do more of. But you can do that and still want to improve and not want to just settle where you're at just because you're grateful for it. There is something, I feel, that when you can really come to, and for me, when I can kind of come to peace with the fact that, yes, I can be grateful for where I'm at and what I have and everything in my life, but I can also want more out of it. Just because I want more doesn't mean I'm not grateful. When I finally started to understand that, it actually felt I almost felt a sense of relief around the feelings and emotions that I have, because I think for the longest time, I really felt like if I wanted to work and get out of something, I had to be coming at it from a point of pain where I was unhappy with the lot that I have in life. And yes, pain can be a super powerful motivator. But I think that we can, if we allow ourselves to, shift the narrative around the gratefulness that we feel for the things that we have in life and the things that we like in life. But we can still, while we're feeling grateful, we can still want more, we can still do more, and we can still work hard to get out of the situation or to improve the situation that we're in. We don't have to just improve the situation because it's bad and it's shit and we feel like we're a horrible human being because we're in this position here. I think once you kind of work that out, and one thing that has been really powerful for me over the last 6 months has been that mindset shift around, hey, you can be grateful for where you're at, but you don't have to settle there. And you can still work hard to improve certain aspects of it without hating the situation that you're in. So let me know your thoughts around that, because I really think it's an interesting topic and an interesting conversation for a lot of people to have with themselves. Because all too often, people leave change and they leave work until they get to the point that they absolutely hate something and they are working from a place of, they are running from pain rather than just trying to improve on a situation. And I think that because if you leave it to that point, that's going to bleed into other areas of your life, which I don't necessarily know is a healthy way to be trying to implement change. Now, don't get me wrong, I have coached many people over the years that have been very, very successful in the thing that they have endeavored to change when they have been coming from a place of pain. But I also think that if there's something in the back of your head that you want to change and you want to work towards, having that conversation with yourself and being objective about, hey, yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at, but I can still do some work to improve this situation around my health, around my finances, around my business, or around whatever it is. Because if you're not working to improve, if you're staying stagnant, I truly believe that at some point you're going to go backwards if you just settle for where you're at. Whereas if you're constantly working to get better and you're coming at that from a place of, hey, I'm grateful for where I'm at, but I'm going to work to get better, being grateful but not settling, I think that can be, for some people, a very healthy mindset, and can also be motivating, because you can motivate yourself with that angle and with that outcome in mind of what we're trying to get to. So that's that shorter episode this week. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've struggled with kind of switching between that gratitude mindset where it's like, hey, be grateful for where you're at, but then also understanding that you can, just because you're grateful doesn't mean you're not able to work to get better at particular things or improve a situation that you're in. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate each and every single one of you that listens every week, and those of you that listen intermittently, I appreciate you as well. So thanks again. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.